What's up guys, this is Anime Crossover. I'm back with another episode of What If Naruto Was the Speed God Part 3. And if you did enjoy this video, give this video a like. And if you're new to my channel and like my content, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more crossover fictions with a twist. Now let's begin this new video.
Infitrator is the 6th chapter. After a shopping binge, Naruto traveled through Happy Harbor with M'gann, who was dressed as a human, and stopped at a little cafe. So, we've got new sheets, several blankets, a small rug, and M'gann began listing her purchases. Several boxes of items I had hoped to never buy for myself, Naruto muttered, burying her face in her fists. It's not really that bad, M'gann assured. Naruto scowled as she squinted at M'gann through her fingers. I'm always in pain, and those morons in my head won't shut up, Naruto explained, not to mention it's really uncomfortable when it drops. You'll get used to it, M'gann replied as she nibbled into her sandwich. I need to go for a walk, Naruto remarked as she stood up, adding, I'll be right back. M'gann sipped her drink as she strolled around the corner of the cafe. M'gann looked toward the source of the sound after hearing a loud smash. After transforming into her Martian form, she rushed around the corner and sailed over everyone. Apparently, a garbage disposal vehicle was involved in an accident and tipped over. But it was a familiar face on the ground that made her gasp. Naruto, she screamed as she touched down close to her pal. M'gann, we have a problem, Naruto lamented, I can't exactly see anything. M'gann's eyes widened as she gazed at the leaking chemicals, then at several people assisting an elderly guy. She saved my life, the old guy claimed, adding, she's a good kid. M'gann closed her eyes and raised her palm to her head. Superboy, Kaldur, a waste disposal truck tipped over in town, and Naruto was one of the casualties, she reasoned via telepathy, and I need help cleaning up. On the way, Kaldur said over the link. Naruto groaned in pain as she groped for her eyes, and M'gann got to work. A half hour later, Naruto sat in Mount Justice, her eyes bandaged, reading a braille book. How's she doing? Black Canary's Kaldur said from behind a one-way mirror. The optic nerves in her eyes were completely burned out, Black Canary explained. She's completely blind. Can she still do missions? M'gann inquired. It's going to be difficult, Black Canary said. She'll need some time to learn how to fight like that, but it's a good thing she already knows braille. I may be blind, but I can hear you, Naruto remarked calmly as she closed the book and took up the cane next to her. Batman said Naruto can use Ace until she's able to fight again, Robin stated, approaching with a robotic dog. Naruto exited the room and turned to face Robin. At the very least, Ace can help me find an apartment in Jump City, Naruto stated quietly. Jump City? Kaldur inquired, aren't you living here? This place is a little cramped for me, Naruto said as Superboy and M'gann approached. Besides, the place I've been looking at is right next to a Zeta Beam platform, so I can get here quickly, and it's well within my price range since I sold that patent to LexCorp. I know how to counter it, so if Luther ever uses it, it'll be easy to take care of. Naruto took out her phone and approached Ace, who ate the phone as a projected hologram appeared on it. That's how much I sold it for, Naruto explained. Doesn't seem that impressive, Superboy said. All the zeros don't fit on one screen, Naruto explained. Ace, scroll the screen over. The screen shifted, and everyone's mouths opened slightly. He scrolled again, and their eyes widened. Whoa, Black Canary exclaimed in wonder as Ace scrolled over again. Come on, Ace, Naruto urged as she headed down the hall, Ace close behind. After an hour, Naruto and Ace approached the apartment door, and Naruto lifted her hand. It began to fade away unexpectedly, and Naruto hurriedly shook her palm, making it solid again, before knocking. The door was opened by an Asian girl a little older than Naruto. What happened to your eyes? The woman said before looking down at Ace and petting him. And who's big guy? I was in an accident and lost my sight, and the dog's name is Ace, Naruto explained. We don't have to worry about feeding him because he's a robot, and I've got enough money to last several months on me. I knew you'd be a good roommate, the woman said as she let Naruto and Ace in with a sly smile. Naruto swung around as the woman locked the door behind them. The woman kissed Naruto on the lips with one hand on his hip, and Naruto let it sink in. Welcome home. Rio, the woman murmured. It's good to be home, Jade, Naruto murmured slyly, kissing her roommate back. Weeks later, Moon Knight B9-9 was recognized. Naruto entered the main room with Ace by her side and came to a halt when she heard many heartbeats. Naruto, screamed M'gann as Naruto approached her and the others, why haven't you checked in? It's been a week. Sorry, Naruto shyly confessed, I've been working with a friend on how to fight when you can't see. Really? Robin inquired. Naruto smiled and kissed M'gann on the cheek. I'm sure, Naruto responded as she moved her palm down to M'gann's arm. So, what were everyone up to today? Well, we were going to the beach, Kaldur explained. Good, Naruto responded, I'll just go get changed. Naruto followed Ace down the hall and emerged in a black bikini. Well, Ace and I will go wait for you guys, Naruto stated as she walked past the rest of the team, Ace close behind her. Is it wrong to think she's cute when she's dressed like that? Robin wondered. Naruto stepped onto the sandy beach, feeling the ocean breeze on her face. Feels really nice, she said as she lowered her head, I wish I could see it. Yay! Exclaimed a second, more enthusiastic voice within her thoughts. I've always wanted to go to the beach and play with friends. In case you hadn't noticed, we're blind. Yelled an irate voice within her thoughts. Why don't we just ask that old fart in the sky to restore our sight? Naruto sighed in frustration and sat down. Can't those two ever shut up? She wondered to herself as Ace snuggled down beside her. And I already tried that, you two. Now, shut up. The door leading inside was opened, and the rest of the squad emerged. Naruto rose up and stretched before proceeding to the water. Hey, M'gann said, where are you going? Blind people can swim, too, said Naruto as Ace approached her and kept an eye on her. She dove in and swam peacefully just beneath the surface. A stinging pain surged through her legs as she gathered her thoughts, and she tensed. Water filled her lungs as she gasped. Kaldur drew her up to the surface an instant later, and she coughed loudly. What happened? Robin inquired as Kaldur carried Naruto ashore. Naruto coughed again before grunting in pain and grabbing her wrist. As Naruto tumbled on the ground, yelled in anguish, it seemed to vibrate out of focus. Make it stop, she wailed. A ring of silver light encircled her hand and swiftly stopped it from trembling. Naruto took a few long breaths before flexing her hand and looking up at the squad. I guess I have some more explaining to do, Naruto sighed. A few hours later, so, that's it, Naruto sighed, looking down at the squad, Batman, and Martian Manhunter. So, you have this speed sickness? Red Tornado inquired. Yeah, Naruto said defeatedly, my life is tethered to my connection to the Speed Force, and as I lose it, I lose my life. Why didn't you tell us? Kaldur inquired. Because it's my burden to bear, Naruto sighed, Kansu is holding it off for now, but unless I regain my speed, I'm going to die. You should have told the League about this, Batman chided. I didn't think it was important for you people to know, Naruto explained as she patted Ace. Besides, the Speed Force itself said that if I prove myself to it, it will give me my speed back, but I have no idea what that means. She felt something strange and raised her head before freezing. What is it? Robin inquired. It's nothing, Naruto shrugged, shaking her head. Why? Why am I thinking of him now? M'gann gazed at her as she was buried in concentration and attempted to read Naruto's mind once more. Oh, Naruto, exclaimed a small girl excitedly, we've got a new friend. What are you talking about? Naruto wondered. She means that stupid alien girl, a young lad grumbled, she's reading your mind. M'gann, please get out of my head before I tear yours off, Naruto yelled fiercely in her thinking. M'gann quickly cut the connection, and Naruto sighed. She flinched slightly as her finger faded and vibrated before halting. When someone approached, Ace snarled, and Naruto placed her palm on his head. Calm down, boy, Naruto said. I'm Artemis, the girl responded, holding out her hand. And I'm blind, Naruto said, turning her head to the side. Oh, Artemis exclaimed, surprised, I'm so sorry. It's okay, Naruto said as she turned her head toward the Zeta Beam platform, and here comes our resident speedster. Kid Flash was recognized as well. B0-3 Wally arrived in a burst of light on the Zeta Beam platform, dressed in beachwear and carrying a large amount of gear. Let's get this party star, Wally screamed before tripping. Before coming to a halt, the beach ball bounced out of his arms and over Batman. Naruto's smartphone rang, and she tapped Ace on the back of the head. As she pulled out the phone and answered it, a soundproof energy dome appeared above her. Hello? She inquired. I don't recall risking my hide as part of the job during the recruiting phase, Constantine exclaimed over the barrage of energy bolts shooting past his head as he took shelter. I volunteered to go to Azareth, but you insisted on going instead, Naruto stated over the phone. What did you do to get them to attack you? Oh, just accidentally damaged a statue of their founder, Constantine murmured as he glanced around the pedestal he was hiding behind, only to immediately withdraw his head back to dodge another laser bolt. Just get back and I'll try myself later, Naruto grumbled. I can't have your death hanging over my head. I've gotta go before the others get suspicious about why I'm not paying attention. She hung up and tapped Ace on the back of the head again, this time to get him to retract the soundproof dome. Abducted 2 weeks ago by the League of Shadows, Red Arrow said as everyone viewed the computer screens. Naruto clenched her fist for a split second when she heard the name of the organization. "Whoa," exclaimed Robin, "and you want us to rescue her?" "He obviously rescued her beforehand, Richard," Naruto replied as she rose and Ace assisted her. "Besides, I'm sensing a bet here." "And just who are you?" Red Arrow inquired cautiously. Naruto smirked and lifted up her hood, donning her Moon Knight armor before reverting to normal. "The shadows had already pressured her into building a weapon," Red Arrow explained, pressing a button on his remote to bring up several additional screens. "Doc calls it the fog, and it's made up of millions of microscopic robots. They can break down anything they're targeting," Naruto explained, placing her palm on Ace's head, "but their main use is gathering information." "How do you know that?" Wally inquired. "I had Ace here hack into Speedy's program and translate it into Morse code for me," Naruto explained as Ace let out numerous audible growls with short gaps in between. "In either case, the shadows can use that information to gain access to weapons, strategic defense, and cutting-edge science and technology," Red Arrow explained. "Perfect for extortion, manipulation, and power broking," Artemis said. "Yeah. Sounds like the shadows." "Like you know anything about the shadows," Wally said, and Artemis smirked. "Who are you?" "Roquette's working on a virus to render the fog inert," Red Arrow revealed. "But if the shadows knows she can do that," Robin realized. "They'll find her," Red Arrow predicted as another screen appeared, "so I hid her at the local high school's computer lab." "You left her alone?" Green Arrow inquired, perplexed. "She's safe enough for now," Red Arrow replied. Naruto raised her head and shifted her gaze to the left. Batman was aware of this, but focused his attention on Red Arrow. After Red Arrow went, Naruto's ears were filled with a quiet and raspy voice. "Did anyone else hear that?" she inquired. "I don't hear anything," M'gann remarked. Naruto whirled around and leapt. "What's wrong?" Kaldur inquired. "I just felt something touch my shoulder," Naruto explained as she assumed a fighting position. "Naruto, there's no one here," Wally pointed out. Naruto took several deep breaths before rising from her position and facing the crew. "Perhaps you should sit this one out," Superboy suggested, "because we haven't tested the full extent of your blindness." Naruto whistled and smirked. Several balls blasted out of Ace's back just as Naruto drew a silver handgun and fired in the direction of the balls. They landed on the ground but did not bounce since each of them had a hole in it. "You were saying?" Naruto questioned as he blew off the smoking barrel. "I vote she goes," Wally remarked almost immediately. Naruto smiled and pulled her hood up. She moved nearer the Zeta Beam platform before coming to a halt next to Kaldur. "You sit this one out," Moon Knight remarked as she rested her palm on Kaldur's shoulder. "We can call you for backup if we need it." "Are you sure?" Kaldur inquired. "Positive," Moon Knight replied. "Besides, this will give you time to explain to Batman how bad the damages to the living quarters are." Moon Knight stepped inside a gigantic gateway that had opened in front of her. "Why use a boom tube?" Wally wondered aloud. "What damages?" Batman inquired. Aqualad moaned, his head bowed. Moon Knight hesitated as she stepped out of the boom tube outside the high school. She turned her head slightly before blinking, as if she was feeling something. She raised an eyebrow as she noticed incredibly hazy forms. She brought her palm up to her face, revealing a big smear moving across her eyes. "My sight's returning," she exclaimed in surprise, "but how?" That evening, Moon Knight sat and watched Dr. Roquette work on the virus as the rest of the crew communicated through M'gann's telepathic link. Kid Flash, Robin, and Artemis joined Moon Knight and Roquette in the room, as M'gann and Superboy patrolled outside. Moon Knight activated a secondary computer and hurriedly wrote something on the monitor before hurling a pencil at Kid Flash. Kid Flash, who had been knocked in the head, glared at Moon Knight, who motioned him over to examine what was on the monitor. "M'gann, Naruto wants you to add her to the mental link," Kid Flash reasoned. Moon Knight sighed after a brief moment. "Don't expect me to let this go on forever," Moon Knight reasoned. "After this mission, I'm kicking you all out. It's bad enough that I have those 4 kids running around inside my head." "4 kids?" Artemis inquired. "She means me and my brothers," cried an excited feminine voice. "Hi, new friends. Oh, M'gann, you're so pretty, and I can't wait to see our newest friend in bed." "Would you just shut up?" yelled an enraged male voice. "It's bad enough we're letting people in our head, but they don't want to hear you." "Both of you, go away," exclaimed Moon Knight angrily. "I couldn't get the Justice League to look after me," Dr. Roquette grumbled. "Just be grateful we agreed to protect you," grumbled the Moon Knight, and Wally, "stop complaining about Artemis taking Speedy's place." But she. Kid Flash began. No buts, exclaimed Naruto, it's bad enough that I'm going to die unless I regain my speed, but I don't have enough patience to deal with your whining. Artemis, please go help M'gann and Superboy patrol the perimeter. Gladly, Artemis exclaimed as she rushed out of the room. Moon Knight stood up and took several deep breaths before peering over Roquette's shoulder. If we don't track the weapon, the virus won't be much use, Moon Knight reasoned as she folded her arms. My utility fog is not a weapon, Roquette reasoned as she returned Moon Knight's stare. It's science, brilliant science. Moon Knight extended her hand to stop Roquette from looking off to the side. Just get to it, Moon Knight cautioned, everyone, be on guard. There's something here that's not supposed to be. Roquette went online and started looking. Tracking the fog now, she said as the program began to work. Artemis thought, that boy. He can hear you, you know, M'gann grumbled, we all can hear you. Oh, I know, Artemis said seductively. M'gann, we've located the fog, Moon Knight declared. Looking at the Roquette screen, reconfigure the bioship so that Robin and Superboy can pursue. Moon Knight then sat down and briefly disconnected from the others as she took out her cell phone, drawing a glance from Kid Flash. It's untraceable, Moon Knight informed herself before dialing. Hello? Inquired Constantine on the other end. It's me, Moon Knight explained. Have you ever heard of a creature that only one person can sense but others can't? You're going to have to be more specific, Constantine said. The person sensing the creature feels cold, Moon Knight remarked, and a strange sense of dread falls over them, as if they're at the end of their rope. Well, there are a lot of creatures that could cause that, Constantine explained, but the one you're probably thinking of is the Grim Reaper himself, but he only appears to those who are about to die. Great, Moon Knight remarked before looking up, I'll call you back tomorrow. She shut up the phone and took out two tiny swords. Wally, patrol the halls, Moon Knight said. M'gann, Artemis, be careful out there. We've got a visitor. Wally swiftly left, and Moon Knight moved closer to Roquette. The door squeaked about 2 minutes later, and Moon Knight cast a quick glance behind her. Moon Knight repelled the shuriken aimed at Roquette with a high-pitched spinning. She then knocked Roquette to the ground and moved in front of and blocked several more with her left arm armor. Nice reflexes, exclaimed the woman who was attacking as she dashed inside with two sei in her hands. I was taught by the best, Moon Knight stated as she fought the woman. Too bad my poison splatters so easily, the woman commented as Moon Knight kicked her back and forced her to lie on a desk. Artemis, M'gann, Wally, were under attack in the computer lab, Moon Knight stated frantically as she reacquainted herself with the woman. On our way, Artemis said hastily. Moon Knight backed up against the wall with Roquette, being on the defensive until the woman snatched her head scissors and threw her to the ground. The woman threw a sai at Roquette, but Moon Knight deflected it with her own blade. Almost, the woman remarked as she pulled out another sai and rose at the same moment as Moon Knight before locking blades. You getting tired yet? I have a lot of stamina, Moon Knight stated before the woman headbutted her to the ground. But you appear to have a fragile head, the woman added as she lifted her hand. Artemis' arrow rushed by, knocking the said from the woman's grasp and grazing it. The woman stared at Artemis, who had already drawn another arrow. Don't move, Artemis advised. Moon Knight grunted as she stood up and discovered her vision had entirely restored. As she sliced through, deflected the arrows, she gazed up at the woman. The woman gazed at Wally and M'gann as they approached Moon Knight. Perhaps a little too interesting, the woman remarked. Jade? Moon Knight inquired as she removed her hood. Under her mask, the woman's eyes widened as she hurled a flashbang. Wally dashed into the smoke to grab her, but instead succeeded in catching Artemis. He took a step back and peered around the room. Gone, he answered angrily. She's getting away, Roquette exclaimed loudly. You're letting her get away. This is all your fault, Kid Flash yelled at Artemis. Naruto slapped Kid Flash across the face after spinning him around. Enough, she grumbled, you need to swallow your pride and accept that she's a part of the team. But she drove Speedy out, Kid Flash countered. She did nothing of the sort, exclaimed Naruto, he's just got such a stick up his ass that he doesn't want any help. You take that back, Kid Flash demanded. I may not have my speed anymore, but I can still kick your ass, Naruto retorted. Why did you call that woman Jade? M'gann said, attempting to diffuse the tension. Do you know her? Naruto stepped to the entrance, taking a big breath. I thought I did, Naruto responded, flipping her hood up. We need to move the doctor quickly. She took out a communicator and placed it to her ear. Hey, Kaldur, she said over it, looks like we're going to need your help after all. A few minutes later, while Dr. Roquette worked on the malware, Moon Knight stood inside an internet cafe. I've almost got it, she declared. Moon Knight took out one of her short swords and hurled it at the ceiling after about 5 minutes. Cheshire fell through when it collapsed. As she stood up, she grumbled, and Moon Knight stepped between her and Roquette. "Stand down, Jade," Moon Knight said, holding up her second sword. "I must admit that I was surprised to see you here, Rio," Cheshire said, "but a mission is a mission. If you want her, you're going to have to go through me," Moon Knight remarked. A peculiar black fog poured in through the opening, wrapping around Moon Knight just as Kaldur arrived. Moon Knight was lifted off the ground and out of the hole in the ceiling by the smoke. It dragged Moon Knight into the woods and let her crash to the ground. Moon Knight grunted in pain as she glanced up to see smoke creating a guy wearing a long black jacket over armor and strapped with bombs to his chest. His face was concealed by a lengthy skull mask, and his voice seemed to shift. You're Reaper," Moon Knight muttered as she rose to her feet. Reaper pulled out 2 sawed-off shotguns, and Moon Knight jumped into the woods to avoid the blasts. Moon Knight drew her handguns and dove out of cover, firing. The bullets never made contact because Reaper transformed to smoke everywhere they would have hit. As black smoke rose from his feet, Reaper dropped his firearms and shakily raised his hands. And a moment later, blood-red lasers burst out from the pistols he drew from his coat in all directions. Moon Knight had to keep moving since everything the lasers touched disintegrated. Moon Knight dropped to the ground after a laser struck her in the heel. Reaper flew over to Moon Knight and snatched her throat. Moon Knight smashed through each tree as they flew through them. They eventually returned to town, and Moon Knight fell into the ocean. Moon Knight grumbled as her hood slid off, her wounds gradually healing in the moonlight. Reaper stomped on Naruto's back and hacked furiously. He aimed a pistol at her head, and Naruto gazed up at Reaper, seeing an eye through Reaper's mask. "Die," Reaper replied coldly. Sasuke," mumbled Naruto, about to fall out from pain. Reaper took a breather before catching an arrow aiming squarely at his skull. He took a glance at it before the tip burst in his face. As Kid Flash grabbed Naruto and returned to the team, he moaned and staggered away. As the team drew their guns, Reaper stared at them. "You can't take us all on," Kaldur explained. Reaper scowled at them through his half-damaged mask and with his crimson eye, which had 3 tomos in it, before turning into black smoke and flying away. Naruto stumbled to her feet, and her armor vanished. As she walked ahead, she removed her jacket and shirt to display her wrapped chest. She took a deep breath before entering the water and stepping into it. "What's she doing?" Wally inquired. The sound of chanting in a strange language filled the air as a glittering light appeared in the sea. Naruto burst through the water's surface a moment later, taking in the mild tingling sensation that engulfed her body. She turned to face the others and began walking toward them. Naruto gathered her belongings and exited through a boom tube without saying anything. The following day, Moon Knight approached a young girl dressed in white who was meditating in the domain of Azareth. "Rachel Roth," Moon Knight stated calmly. The girl grimaced as she returned Moon Knight's gaze. "How do you know my name?" the girl inquired. "I apologize for being so formal," Moon Knight explained. "Perhaps you would prefer the name Raven?" "Who are you?" Raven inquired as Moon Knight took a seat beside her. "You are special, Raven," Moon Knight observed as she sniffed a flower, "and I'm not talking about who your father is." "Do you know about my father?" Raven inquired. "I know he is a being of pure evil, and you want to learn more about him," Moon Knight said as she handed Raven the flower, "but you already know everything about him, and if the time comes when he wishes to take over Earth, you're going to need help." Moon Knight stood up and exhaled deeply. "Azareth Metreon Zinthos," Moon Knight said back to Raven, "if you ever need help dealing with him, come find me on Earth." Moon Knight vanished as the light began to bend about her, leaving Raven alone with the flower. Returned to Earth, Moon Knight arrived at Mount Justice and flipped her hood off to remove her armor, where Ace awaited her. When they entered the sitting room, they discovered the entire crew gathered there. "Why do I feel like I just got called to the principal's office?" Naruto wondered as she approached a snack plate and selected a tiny sandwich. "How do you know Cheshire?" Kaldur inquired. "She's my girlfriend," Naruto remarked nonchalantly while eating the small sandwiches. "Define girlfriend," Robin said. "The kind that's in love and has sex," Naruto explained as she retrieved a glass of water for herself. "She's also the one who taught me to fight without sight." "Clearly not a problem anymore," Wally observed. "How can we be sure you won't tell Cheshire anything about any of us?" Superboy inquired, "or any of the League's secrets?" "How can we be sure you won't turn on us?" retorted Naruto, looking at each of her teammates. "How can we be sure Kaldur won't freak out when he finds out who his father is? How do we know if we can trust M'gann given what she really is?" "How do you know all these things?" M'gann inquired warily. "I hacked the Justice League's computer and discovered a lot of things," Naruto explained as she sat next to Ace. The rest I guessed and others I got from Lord Kansu. Everyone exchanged glances as they took another gulp of water. We all have secrets we want to keep, but I'll tell you one thing, Naruto said. Back on my Earth, I was the youngest detective in the history of the Central City Police Department, and I joined them because I didn't want anyone else to go through the pain I went through when I lost my parents to Savitar. I did many horrible things as Godspeed, but I did them all with that ideal in mind. She sat her cup on the floor and looked around. When I first got my speed, I was using it to kill criminals, she admitted, but my pride clouded my judgment and an innocent man lost his life. I lost everything because of it, but being a cop made me realize something. You need contacts in the underworld who will help you. Ace joined her in standing. You can all talk about my membership in this team while I try to talk to Cheshire, Naruto remarked as she and Ace exited through a boom tube. Naruto and Ace emerged through the boom tube and were confronted by Jade. They sat opposite from one another at a coffee table and remained silent. So, how is this going to work now? Jade inquired cautiously. Well, I was thinking we could go see a movie since I'm probably not going to be a member of the team with your sister anymore, Naruto stated calmly as she sat down. A door appeared in the middle of the chamber and opened, allowing Constantine to exit. Am I interrupting something? He wondered. Not really, Naruto replied, looking at the man. Why are you here? I was able to persuade an old friend to join our little group, John revealed. I see, Naruto responded, pulling out a deck of cards. What group? Jade inquired as Naruto shuffled the deck. I'm putting together a team that deals with the supernatural side of crime, Naruto continued as he dealt the cards. This is a team that the Justice League isn't aware of, and now that I think about it, you'd make a pretty good addition to it. You're seriously asking a criminal to join you? Chuckled Jade. You know quite a bit about Southern Asian mythology from what you told me about yourself, Naruto remarked calmly, smiling. Besides, I hear your mother's medical bills are quite high. What about them? Jade inquired as the atmosphere darkened. I just had some extra cash lying around and was looking for an investment, Naruto explained as she flipped through her cards, and it would be a shame if she lost her insurance. You little. Snarled Jade. Oh, I'm not threatening to get rid of it, Naruto promised. I'm only a minority owner in the company, so I don't have much say. I'm just saying that if she loses coverage, I'd be happy to pay it for her. Naruto lowered her hand to display a royal flush. What do you think, Jade? Naruto inquired, a devious smirk on his face. Reaper walked quietly to the restroom after entering a dark and filthy apartment filled with smoke. He switched on the light and glanced at his damaged mask as his wounds healed swiftly. With a single hit, he broke the mirror with his fists clenched. As Moon Knight stood over them in Gotham City, several gangsters grumbled in an ally. She jumped to the top of a building as the cops approached, landing just in front of Batman. As Moon Knight passed past him, the caped crusader maintained his usual grimace. That was adequate, Batman said. I know Gotham is your city, but what are you doing here, Bruce? Moon Knight asked as she came to a halt. The League has finished debating your situation, Batman explained. And? Moon Knight asked, looking up at the moon. You're expected to be with the team for training tomorrow, Batman explained. The League actually called an emergency meeting to discuss just that, Moon Knight inquired, amused. No, Batman said, the League thought it best if you formed a team similar to the one you're a part of. A team of sidekicks? Moon Knight asked as she picked up a rock and crushed it in her hand with great effort. No, Batman replied, you're to train them to be the next generation of heroes. Moon Knight grinned and turned to face Batman. I should warn you that my screening process is going to be difficult, Moon Knight warned. Not a problem, Batman replied, just make sure these heroes are up to the task. He swung off into the night, firing his grappling hook. Moon Knight sighed as she noticed her suit slipping in and out of existence. It had to be around the new moon, Moon Knight explained as she entered a boom tube. The following day, Naruto entered Mount Justice by boom tube and stood in a hallway watching Aqualad and Superboy duel from behind everyone. Kaldur's, nice, don't you think? Artemis said to M'gann. Handsome. Commanding. You should totally ask him out. I personally prefer my significant other to be female, Naruto said as everyone stopped what they were doing to stare at her. When did you get here? Wally inquired. About a minute ago, Naruto explained, and Batman said that the League wants me to remain on the team. Well, while you're here, do you want to spar? Artemis inquired. No thanks, Naruto respectfully replied, I wouldn't want to injure you too badly. She lifted her palm up and noticed it fading in and out of existence. It's still doing that? Kaldur inquired, as Naruto moaned. Yeah, she answered, leaning against the wall, and it's made worse by the fact that it's the night of the new moon tonight, which is when Kansu is at his weakest. Everyone went over to witness Red Tornado when he came in through the ceiling hatch. "Do you have a mission for us?" Wally inquired as he raced over to Red Tornado. "Mission assignments are the Batman's responsibility," Red Tornado said as he came to a halt to stare at Wally. "Yeah," Wally admitted defeatedly, "but Batman's with Robin doing the dynamic duo thing in Gotham, and you're heading somewhere, right?" "Wally, before you go any further, I just wanted to let you know that I'm a little hungover and don't want to deal with your stupidity right now," Naruto scratched her chin. "If we can be of assistance," Kaldur queried. Red Tornado spun around and produced an image of an elderly man. "This is Kent Nelson, a friend," Red Tornado explained. "He's 106 years old. Guy doesn't look a day over 90. Wally said to Artemis as a sneaker smacked him in the back of the head. "Ow. And he has been missing for over 23 days, Red Tornado stated as the image of Kent changed to one of a guy wearing blue spandex and a golden helmet. Kent was a charter member of the Justice Society, the precursor to your mentor's Justice League. Of course, Kaldur remarked, recalling some facts. Nelson was Earth's Sorcerer Supreme. He was Dr. Fate. More like a poor man's Dr. Strange, Naruto commented, drawing puzzled looks from everyone. I'm just breaking the fourth wall right now. Please, continue. She rubbed her temples after hearing Wally's dumb statement. Kent may be on one of his walkabouts, but he is the caretaker of the Helmet of Fate, the source of the Doctor's mystic might, and it is unwise to leave such power unguarded, Red Tornado stated. He is like the great sorcerer priests and priestesses of Mars, M'gann exclaimed with enthusiasm. I would be honored to help him. Me too, exclaimed Wally as he raised his hand. I'm so honored I can hardly stand it. Magic, rocks. Can I bring in an expert on these kinds of problems? Naruto sighed. He specializes in magic and might be of assistance in obtaining the Helmet of Fate. If the helmet is protected, then I don't see a problem, Red Tornado stated as he approached Naruto and handed her a key. Take this. It is the key to the Tower of Fate. What are the chances that we both admire the mystic arts? Wally inquired, attempting to flirt with M'gann. Naruto hurled her second shoe towards Wally, causing him to cringe. She then took out her phone and dialed. It's me, Naruto began when the phone rang, and I need you to meet me at the Tower of Fate. There's been a situation with the good doctor, and we need to guard the helmet. Who do you think she's talking to? Superboy asked Kaldur. Don't know, Kaldur responded quietly. And I'm bringing company, Naruto explained, so you need to keep it a secret. She hung up after noticing the team's disapproval. What? She inquired. Savitar looked down at his hand, which was gently vibrating, before swiping everything off the table in front of him and yelling angrily. You really need to learn to control your temper, Lady Shiva stated as she entered the room, carrying a number of medical devices. That child cut off my connection to the Speed Force, spit Savitar, and I have every right to be angry. Well, I've been tracking down Alchemy, and it's going to take a while before he's found, Lady Shiva remarked as she prepared a syringe. Warning, this may sting. She injected the contents of the syringe into Savitar's arm. As the medication reached his system, Savitar took several deep breaths. His entire body began shaking violently before abruptly ceasing. It appears I need to work on the duration of the effects, Lady Shiva said as she left the room. Savitar leaned back in her chair, palming his face and glaring through his fingers. I will kill that brat, he thought as he poked holes in his fingers. When did you first realize you had an honest affinity for sorcery? Artemis asked, scowling. The group was currently in M'gann's bioship on their way to the Tower of Fate. Meanwhile, Naruto rolled her eyes before turning away. We've arrived at Tornado's coordinates, but M'gann stated as they approached the spot. Nothing's there, Superboy concluded. Take us down, Kaldur said. They all filed out once M'gann landed the ship. So, where's this friend of yours? Artemis of Naruto inquired. A wooden door appeared in front of them, as if on cue, and Constantine opened it, then walked through it, closing it behind him. Wally massaged his eyes as the door vanished. This is John Constantine, Naruto introduced to the crew. He's an expert on every type of magic you can think of. A pleasure, Constantine remarked, looking down at Naruto. Now, what exactly is going on? Mr. Nelson has gone missing, and we need to secure the Helmet of Fate, Naruto explained calmly as she held up the key, and it would be nice if you wouldn't mind unlocking the door. Well, then, let's go treasure hunting, Constantine said as he accepted the key and entered the park. Naruto sighed, feeling a tug at the back of her neck. From Naruto's mind, Naruto sighed as she entered her house's living room to discover Mina sitting there. What is it now? Said Naruto, irritably. I can't take to my favorite person in the world. Mina joked. No, Naruto responded as she sat in a chair. Where are the kids? I sent them off so we could talk, Mina stated as she came in closer to Naruto. You haven't been trying to get your speed back lately. Well, I've been busy, Naruto admitted nervously. You're actually starting to like it on this earth, Mina teased. No, Naruto answered hastily, her face flushed, it's just, I'm being more cautious, that's all. You've always been a bad liar, Mina chuckled, but you have to be careful with Reaper around. I don't remember much of that encounter, Naruto remarked, holding her head. It's like someone put up a titanium wall around that memory and is preventing me from accessing it. That does sound like Reaper, Mina said as she started reading a book. Who is he, anyway? Naruto wondered. Reaper is an agent of death, Mina explained as she flipped the page of her book. Death sends him out when a soul has escaped the afterlife and returned to the realm of the living. But that's crazy, Naruto remarked, I never died. There was the particle accelerator explosion that gave you your speed in the first place, Mina kept reading. Then there was the first speed bomb you used, and you were medically dead when you first landed on this earth. But why did he choose now to come after me? Naruto wondered. Reaper is also a member of the League of Shadows, Mina explained as she closed her book and opened her phone to browse at applications. He's the only member who is allowed to decline targets. When he's not hunting down rogue souls, he functions like any other Grim Reaper or mercenary. Great, Naruto grumbled, not only did I have to face my evil twin, but now I also have to deal with Death himself. Death is a she, and Reaper is a he, Mina said as she placed her phone away, and I think it's time you get back to your friends. Naruto stood up and went to the door. Just one last thing before you go, Mina said as Naruto came to a halt with his hand on the doorknob. Would you really want to give up seeing your kids again if it meant staying here? Naruto bowed her head and pushed open the door. Return to the real world. Here we are, Constantine stated as they came to a halt in the midst of the park. But there's nothing here, Wally pointed out. All you have to do is believe, Constantine smirked as he held up the key Naruto had given him. He took a step forward before inserting the key into an unseen keyhole. Everyone's jaw dropped except Naruto's when a large stone tower appeared around the key. The door opened, and everyone entered, the door closing behind them and disappearing. Where'd the door go? Superboy wondered, as an image of Kent Nelson emerged in front of them. It's been a long time, John, the image replied, and while I don't mind you being here, you came with a group of unknowns. What is their business here? When Wally walked forward, Naruto was going to say something. We are true believers here to find Dr. Fate, he smiled. You idiot, yelled Naruto as the floor underneath them all vanished. As they dropped down the lava at the bottom of the hole, they all screamed. Constantine clenched his teeth and clasped his hands together. Everyone began to glow, but then began to fade. Nice call, Kaldur remarked. Thanks, grumbled Constantine, but I can't hold this for long. This is entirely your fault, said Artemis to Wally. What did I do? Exclaimed Wally. If we could just put this little spat on hold, that would be nice, exclaimed Constantine, who was nearly at his wit's end. Hello, M'gann, M'gann realized as she palmed her head. We never truly answered the question. She then raised her hand up to her mouth. Red tornadoes sent us to see if Mr. Nelson and the helmet were safe. A stone slab appeared over the lava just as Constantine's power ran out, but they were just about a foot away from the stone disk. Before rising to their feet, everyone took several deep breaths. This platform, Kaldur observed as he bent to feel the disk, should be hot from the lava, but it's cool to the touch. Wally made another attempt to flirt with M'gann, and Artemis was going to storm over to him when Naruto stepped in front of him and hit him in the face. I've had just about enough of you, screamed Naruto angrily, because you can't control your boner for M'gann, you nearly got us all killed. When did this become my fault? Wally argued. When you lied to that apparition of Nelson and called yourself a true believer, said Naruto. Wally, you don't believe? M'gann inquired. Fine, Wally said, fine, I lied about believing in magic, but magic is the real lie, a major burden. Wally, I studied for a year at the Conservatory of Sorcery in Atlantis, Kaldur explained. The mystic arts created the skin icons that power my water bearers. Not to mention that I just levitated us and stopped us from falling into a volcanic jacuzzi, Constantine recalled. And I'm also possessed by the Egyptian god of the moon, Naruto explained. Have you ever heard of bioelectricity? Wally arrogantly inquired. Then there's telepathy and you have multiple personalities. Naruto sighed and averted his gaze. When she clapped her hands, time stopped for everyone save her and Constantine. Is there something wrong? He inquired of the young lady. Everything, Naruto sighed. First I lose my parents to my doppelganger, then I lose my wife, then I lose my speed and I'm going to fade out of existence, and then I doom my wife's doppelganger to an early grave. Easy, Constantine murmured as he rested his palm on Naruto's shoulder. There is a way for you to live actually. How? Naruto asked, looking up at her older. If you become Dr. Fate, you will be immortal, Constantine explained. Dr. Fate does not need to eat, drink, or sleep, and Nabu can cure any ailment his host encounters. As her magic dissolved and time resumed, Naruto seemed to take this into account. Kaldur reached for a handle and grabbed it. Wait, shouted Wally, the backdraft from the lava will roast us alive. When Kaldur opened the hatch, they were surprised by a cold breeze and snow blowing up at them. It's snow, M'gann exclaimed joyfully as she touched the snow. Do you ever get tired of being wrong? Artemis mocked Wally. Naruto leapt through the hole, but gravity shifted the instant she did. She landed on her feet, with Constantine close behind her. I've always loved this type of magic, Constantine commented as the rest of the crew arrived, Wally being the last. Well? Artemis inquired. Haven't you heard of string theory? Wally challenged, we're in a pocket dimension. Naruto and Artemis groaned, while Constantine glanced away. Looks like we won't have to wait long to find Mr. Kent, he smugly stated. When everyone turned to see what Constantine was talking about, they noticed a cane floating nearby. Perhaps it's Nelson's magic wand, Wally joked. He dashed over to it just as Naruto and Artemis arrived and grabbed it simultaneously. I've got it, they both replied simultaneously before realizing something was amiss. I can't let go. The cane drew them all into the air and they vanished in a burst of light. Well, that was new, Constantine interrupted the uneasy silence. They began trekking, hoping to find a route out of the freezing wasteland. I don't understand Wally, M'gann said, it's almost like he needs to believe that the impossible can't happen. He's just using science to control what he can't understand, Constantine explained, and to those kinds of people, acknowledging it would be relinquishing that last little bit of control. How did you get involved in magic, Constantine? Kaldur inquired. I come from a line of magicians who used to make fun of the old gods, Constantine explained nonchalantly. They all heard a loud creak and thump and turned around to find a staircase leading to an open gateway somewhere. Naruto, Wally, and Artemis appeared in a room full of stairwells and glanced up to see two individuals abusing Nelson. Abracadabra, Wally said solemnly. Well, would you look at that, Kent replied, smiling. Nelson's cane began to shine as the people surrounding him whirled around, Nelson himself levitating and flying toward them. He knelt with the three youths and seized his cane, the ropes that bound his hands dissolving and the kids releasing the cane. Naruto drew a pair of pistols from behind her and fired at the two people holding Nelson hostage, forcing the one with the cat to form a barrier. In here, Kent muttered, holding his cane against the wall behind the teens, and an elevator opened. Everyone filed inside, with Naruto giving cover fire as she backed up carefully. Naruto exhaled with relief as the doors closed and they felt themselves being hauled up. As they stood in silence, elevator music played before Nelson returned their gaze. I'm Kent Nelson, by the way, Kent introduced himself. I'm Rio, Naruto stated, raising Wally and Artemis' eyebrows. The other blonde beauty is Artemis, and Miss Manners next to her is Wally. Well, Rio, we're up against an opponent with tremendous mystic power, Kent stated solemnly. Abracadabra, mocked Wally. Flash proved his uses futuristic technology to simulate magic. Guys all show and no biz. Right you are, Kent agreed with a smile. He is? Artemis asked, surprised. Abra is a charlatan, Kent declared. Mr. Nelson is referring to Clarion, the witch boy, Naruto explained, the boy with the cat. He's a lord of chaos, which is the polar opposite of Dr. Fate. Everyone turned to gaze at Naruto, who was frowning and folding her arms. I'm possessed by an Egyptian god, so I thought I'd dabble in the magical realm a little, Naruto explained, blushing. Where did you learn about magic? Kent inquired. Something I did on my own, Naruto explained, the rest from an old friend of yours, John Constantine. Ah, yes, Kent remembered the man in question, he often comes to the tower for afternoon tea. Here we go with the magic talk about, Wally grumbled, you're supposed to be a Lord of Order? Oh, no, Kent responded as he took out his pocket watch and examined the picture inside, not me. I'm just an old coot Fate used to put on. Until my wife, Inza, convinced me there could be more to life. I miss my wife, Naruto said as she examined the wedding ring on the chain of her necklace. Anyway, Kent said as he closed the watch and looked at them, Clarion's after the helmet, and if he gets his sticky little hands on it, he'll turn the planet into his own personal playground of pandemonium. The elevator chimed and the doors swung open. They walked out and up a short flight of stairs to a massive bell. When they heard a ringing behind them, they turned around and peered up to see a trapdoor rise above them. It shattered, and Constantine, Superboy, Kaldur, and M'gann were thrown out. "If you could all stop crushing my spine, that would be great," groaned Constantine in pain as Artemis approached to assist. "John always liked to make entrances," Kent remarked before Naruto threw him and Wally to the ground to avoid a beam of electricity from Abracadabra. "I'm guessing these guys also like to make entrances?" Wally wondered as they all ducked another Abra blast. "Wally," Constantine made it over to Naruto, and Kent as the elderly gentleman struck the bell with his cane, causing it to light. They hurriedly entered it, followed by Clarion and his cat, Tikal. The quartet arrived on the Tower of Fate's roof, with the helmet of fate floating above them. When Clarion came and fired sickly red energy at Kent, he reached for it. "Mr. Nelson," cried Wally as he snatched Kent. Constantine scowled at Clarion as Kent straightened himself and the two of them performed a spell in a language only the two of them and Clarion knew. As a barrier appeared above the heroes, Clarion unleashed another magical blast. Clarion screamed angrily, "No. Not bad for a former Dr. Fake, eh, kid?" Kent asked as he turned to face Wally before collapsing. Naruto tightened her hands and closed her eyes. "John," Naruto replied calmly, "there's a girl in the hospital in Happy Harbor named Mina. Tell her Moon Knight is with Bailey, and keep Wally out of this." She dashed over to the helmet of fate and took it. "Hey, girl," Clarion exclaimed, "if you put that helmet on, you'll never take it off." Naruto inhaled deeply as Constantine decreased the barrier, leaving him outdoors. She then put on the helmet as Clarion fired another magical energy beam at her. When the beam struck, a blinding light emitted from it, casting the magic away to expose Naruto as Dr. Fate. Fate rose into the air and extended her palm, releasing an Ankh-shaped energy shield to repel Clarion's magic. "Give it up, Nabu," exclaimed Clarion. Order went out of style in the 20th century. "Nabu isn't here right now," Fate remarked, her voice garbled. "Please leave a message at the tone." She flicked her wrist, deflecting Clarion's assault while also shocking him. "How are you holding Nabu back?" questioned Clarion. "Wouldn't you like to know?" Fate inquired. Clarion yelled, and two stone pillars rose from the floor, colliding on Fate. A brilliant Ankh appeared on the stone surface, blasting it apart and revealing Fate was unhurt. "Sab," Fate stated calmly, firing a beam from an Ankh composed of energy in her hand. When it hit the ground, Clarion vaporized and his cat flew away. "Behind you," exclaimed Wally. Clarion's assault hit Fate in the back, causing her to fall to the ground. Clarion materialized in front of her and unleashed an energy ball fashioned like a demonic head. Fate jumped out of the way, shielding herself from the retuning attack. Clarion, on the other hand, took advantage of the opportunity and hit Fate again, sending her sliding on the ground. Fate pushed herself up and erected a shield, which swiftly cracked and crumbled in the face of Clarion's magical bullets. After being knocked back again, Fate floated around, escaping Clarion's attacks before being hit by the final one. Her entire body ached as she crashed on the ground, groaning. "You may have Nabu's powers, but you don't even know how to use them," Clarion firmly said. He summoned a massive magical storm, causing a bolt of lightning to strike Fate, who erected a rainbow barrier around herself. "Ooh, rainbow power," sarcastically cooed Clarion before Tikal meowed at him. "I am paying attention, you stupid cat." Clarion glared at the cat as it meowed again. "In case you haven't noticed, I'm winning," he said to begin. Fate noticed this and shattered the lightning to disperse it. "Shinra Tensai," she remarked authoritatively, stretching out her hand to Tikal. The cat flew back and landed on one of the tower's many stones. "Tikal," shouted Clarion as he raced over to the cat to check on it before staring at Fate, "I can't believe you would attack a defenseless pussycat. You really didn't think I wouldn't find out that that cat is your tether to this realm?" Fate questioned as Clarion faded in and out of existence. "You'll pay for this," yelled Clarion before grabbing Tikal and fleeing. "Get in line," Fate murmured calmly as she drifted to the ground. As Kadabra's nets jolted them, the rest of the team yelled and moaned in pain. When a big glowing Ankh appeared behind him and removed his garments, save his underwear and wand, Kadabra smirked and raised his wand. He gasped in amazement as Superboy jumped to his feet and knocked him out with a single hit to the skull. "That was so cool, Naruto," cried Wally as he approached Fate, but discovered she wasn't even recognizing his presence. "Excuse me, hello? Naruto to the earth. Are you in there?" "Oh, she's in there," Constantine remarked as he approached them. "But she's not in control of her body right now. When people set Nabu down so they can move their own bodies while using his strength, he gets irritated." "Can't you do something?" shouted Wally, looking at Constantine. "Nope," Constantine answered casually as they both gazed at Fate. "She knew the risks and paid the price to ensure you all survived." To the surprise of Constantine and Wally, Fate reached up and removed her helmet, causing her attire to disappear. That's what I did. Naruto smiled. How did you persuade Nabu to let you take off the helmet? Constantine asked, surprised. Nabu decided that I wasn't suited for his powers and is allowing me to find him a suitable replacement, Naruto revealed. Seriously? Wally inquired. Well, I did have a little help convincing him, Naruto replied seriously as she examined Kent's body. Later, Naruto sighed as he placed the helmet of fate beside the rest of Wally's keepsakes. Behind Naruto, Artemis cleared her throat, and the girl turned to face her. Rio? Artemis inquired. It's sort of my name now, Rio admitted sheepishly. Before I sold that patent to LexCorp, I hacked the US government systems and registered myself as Rio August Uzumaki. Why didn't you tell us? Artemis wondered as she and Rio sat on a couch. I didn't see how it was any of your business, Rio remarked, looking down at the ground. I figured that since I'm new to this earth, I'd start out fresh as someone else. But you should have informed the team, Artemis remarked. I was going to tell you all about it after that little incident with Cheshire and Reaper, Rio chuckled sadly. Oh, Artemis muttered embarrassingly as she averted her gaze. I've actually got to get going, Rio remarked as she rose up. Cheshire hates it when I'm late. She passed through the entrance and into a boom tube. Rio arrived in a deserted quarry and proceeded to walk deeper into it until an oak door appeared in front of her. She pushed open the door and entered the House of Mystery. She shut the door behind her and turned around to confront a purple entity with a feminine appearance. Hello, Rio, the entity said, rather skeptically. Hello, Orchid, Naruto remarked as she took off her hoodie. Is everyone else here? They are in the library, Orchid explained. Great, Rio murmured as she passed Orchid, patting her on the shoulder. Rio walked into the library and noticed several people seated in front of the fireplace. And here's our fearless leader now, Constantine added, holding up a flask. A child? Inquired the sole other man in the room. Our leader is a child? Rio smirked and motioned with her hand. Everyone jumped back as fire leapt from the hearth. I assure you, I'm more than capable with my abilities, Rio stated as she approached Jade. Hello, my dear. She kissed Jade on the cheek before taking a seat in front of the fire. I assume introductions are in order, Rio replied, and my name is Moon Knight. However, my true name is Rio Uzumaki, and I am possessed by the Egyptian god of the moon. I'm John Constantine, Constantine introduced himself, and I suppose you could call me a consultant on the issues we're dealing with. I'm Jason Blood, the other man explained, and I am possessed by the demon Etrigan. I'm Cheshire, Jade said, bored, and, as my little girlfriend put it, my real name is Jade. I am well versed in various Asian myths and legends. My name is Katana, and I wield the mystical sword known as Sutaker, stated the eldest woman in the room. They all turned to face the last individual, a girl around Naruto's age dressed as a circus magician. I'm Zatanna Zatara, the child introduced herself. My father is Zatara of the Justice League, and my powers are the same as his. Excellent, Rio exclaimed as a glass of wine materialized in her hand. We have maybe one or two more pending members, but this is about as good as we're going to do for right now. What exactly is this all about? Blood inquired. Yeah, Zatanna agreed, you said something about problems that only we could handle. Rio stood up in front of the fire. There are many things in all worlds, Rio remarked, staring at the flames, and each of them has a certain element to it that people like the Justice League can't handle. John and I brought you all together because you all have the knowledge, skills, or tools to deal with these threats. As the flames died, she turned around to face her team. We are the only ones who can stop those threats, Rio declared as the darkness became darker by the second. We are Justice League Dark. To be continued.
That's it for this podcast. Thanks for listening to this video. If you did enjoy this part of the story, like, share, and subscribe for more. And thank you all for helping support. And have a great day.